Welcome to today's explainer. We're jumping right into lesson 3, which is all about building a heatsink. We're going to break down the constraints, the materials, and the strict rules of engagement for a seriously fascinating thermal engineering challenge. Okay, let's dive into this by asking what seems like a pretty simple question. How fast can you actually melt an ice cube? I mean, we all know ice melts at room temperature, right? But when you introduce specific materials designed to maximize surface area and thermal conductivity, the sheer speed at which you can force that phase change from solid to liquid, it's honestly staggering. This isn't just sitting around watching ice melt. It is about actively, intentionally accelerating the process through smart design. Section 1. Mission: melt the ice. This is your ultimate objective. To pull this off, we're building a heatsink. Now, normally you'd use a heatsink to cool electronics down, right? But here, our heatsink is a device engineered specifically to rapidly grab ambient heat and transfer it into the ice to melt it as fast as possible. And we're doing this using some pretty basic everyday components, specifically copper hanger straps that you'll manipulate using needle nose pliers.
Section 2. Your building materials, the arsenal.
So, looking at this inventory table, the sheer scarcity is kind of striking, isn't it? You get exactly one 10-foot roll of copper hanger strap per group. You get 10 machine screws and 10 nuts. That's it. For surface area, just 2 square feet of aluminum foil and a measly 2 squares of paper towel. You really have to look at this random pile of disparate items and somehow envision a highly efficient thermal conductor. So the crucial point is, because this is a hands-on, physical build, safety is absolutely paramount. The documentation explicitly warns us that some supplies may be sharp, so handle them carefully. I mean, when you're cutting foil and twisting stiff copper with limited tools, precision and safety really have to go hand in hand.
Section 3. Rules of construction. The blueprint.
Let's move to and see how this builds a really fascinating dynamic by contrasting 2 totally distinct rule sets. First, we have the during construction rules for the active hands-on workshop phase. And then we have the during the contest rules, which completely flip the script and govern a highly restricted, hands-off testing environment.
Okay, let's detail that construction protocol first. Step 1, you may only use the materials provided. So no sneaking in thermal paste from home. Step 2, and this is interesting, you actually don't have to use all the materials. For instance, paper towel might act as a thermal insulator rather than a conductor. So honestly, leaving it out could actually speed up your time. Efficiency is totally key here. Finally, step 3, your heatsink has to be structurally sound enough to actually be transported over to the contest table.
Now, I really want to hammer home the scarcity of your materials with this number right here, 0. The rules explicitly state that you will get 0 replacement supplies. None. If you accidentally snap your copper strap in the wrong place, or say you crumple your 2 square feet of aluminum foil into a completely unusable ball, well, you're completely out of luck. Every single cut and every single bend carries immense weight here because there are absolutely no do-overs. And amidst all this high-pressure building, knowing your target is absolutely critical. The lesson notes that, quote, your instructor will provide information about the ice cubes used in the contest. Think about it. Are they standard cubes? Are they crushed ice? The surface area to volume ratio of the ice completely changes how your heatsink needs to make contact. So you must adapt your design on the fly to the specific intelligence provided on site. Section 4. The contest phase. The showdown. To ensure absolute fairness and scientific rigor, the testing conditions are tightly controlled. All ice cubes are of a similar size. And this brilliantly illustrates how, once the contest actually begins, you face 3 extremely strict environmental constraints. Absolutely no touching the setup, no causing a breeze, and no placing the heatsink in the sun. Let's focus on that first constraint, because it literally changes the entire game. Once you place your ice cube, you may not touch it again. Guys, this is an entirely hands-off trial. You cannot press the copper down onto the ice to force contact, and you can't adjust the screws as the ice melts and shifts around. Your engineered heatsink has to do absolutely all of the melting work entirely on its own, relying solely on gravity, conduction, and your initial structural design. Furthermore, you've got to contend with this negative space. No breeze, no sun. By explicitly banning any assisting wind that could whisk away cool air, and by banning solar energy from heating up your metal components, the competition demands pure, unassisted thermal engineering. Your device literally has to draw ambient heat from the room and transfer it directly into that ice cube using nothing but the inherent thermal properties of the copper, the aluminum, and those steel screws. So, we've laid out the mission, we've seen the scarce materials, and we know the unforgiving rules. Now I'm passing it to you. Looking at your 10 feet of copper, 2 feet of foil, and a handful of screws, how do you maximize surface area and thermal transfer to win? What is your blueprint going to look like? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this sparks some incredible engineering ideas for you.